Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of be here today, virtually, even so. We were first wondering kind of what does a typical day look like for you at the BBC?
Well, there sort of isn't a typical day. Every day is a bit different, and sometimes you don't quite know what you're going to expect. So we've just done a report on the Anthropocene, where scientists are proposing that we've entered into this new epoch. And we set it up a few weeks ago. We knew it was happening, so we went to film at the University of Southampton, where they had some samples of sediment. They were sort of looking at the plutonium in there, so it's quite a nice bit of chemistry, which don't always get to do. And the Anthropocene one was quite a hard story to tell, because we were, loads of people don't know what an epoch is to start with, or kind of what the Anthropocene actually means, and why you're looking at sediment and why you're in a bog in the Isle of Wight. So you've got quite a lot to pack in, and most of our news packages are about 2 minutes 15. And some days are totally unexpected. A few weeks ago, we heard that a submersible had gone missing, that had been on its way to the Titanic. We'd had all sorts of filming and everything planned, but actually we turned around, went back to London, and spent the next week reporting very heavily on that story. Every day is a bit different, and the stories are all a bit different. But the days you think, it's just, I'm going to have a day catching up with my emails, something normally pops up, and you don't do that.
I was sort of curious to ask, how did you end up working at the BBC?
I sort of knew at the end of my masters, I knew I wasn't really cut out for a life in the laboratory. I wasn't very good at it, actually. I was quite good at all the sort of the more academic end of it, but the lab end I wasn't so fantastic at. So I sort of started thinking, maybe a life as a chemist isn't for me, but I really like talking about it and sort of learning about it. So I went to work for an organisation called the Science Media Centre that was just setting up in London. And there was a general feeling that scientists sort of weren't getting their voices heard. It was sort of, they weren't getting out there in the media enough. So this was a press office for science that was going to sort of help facilitate scientists speaking to the media. So I worked there for a few years, and then I was thinking, I'd really like to be a journalist, actually. That bit looks really good, really interesting. So I actually joined the BBC on a science bursary. So unfortunately, one of their online writers had passed away with a brain tumour, and was called Ivan Noble. And in sort of memory of him, they set up a bursary to bring new science and technology writers into the BBC. So I applied for that, and I was really lucky to get it, because lots of people applied, because it's it's not the easiest organisation to get into. And then I just sort of stuck around, but always in science, like always. That's been the thread that's kind of run through.
What advice would you give to a current chemistry student like us, who wanted to start a career in scientific journalism?
My advice would be to be a bit flexible. I think it's I'd try things out. I think, I sort of stumbled into my career. I kind of bumbled around and kind of worked out the bits I really liked. And even within the BBC, once I got there as well, I started out writing, then I realised I really like radio and really like doing live stuff. So you kind of don't be worried that you don't know exactly what you want to do when you start out. I suppose just be prepared to sort of try different things and get yourself out there a bit. When I was leaving university, there wasn't really sort of anywhere, social. I'm dating myself here, but I don't think like Facebook. Maybe Facebook had started, but people went on. There weren't outlets where you could sort of do your own thing. So that's an opportunity, I suppose, that you guys have that's different now.
I'd quite like to beeline into a bit more of a nostalgic tone and ask you, what were your main memories from being at Oxford?
Oh, do you know, I had such a nice time at university. I've got such fond memories. I really loved it. So I went to St Anne's College, and it was such a nice place. It was so friendly there, and I made so many brilliant friends. I remember it being a lot of work, and the practicals I was never very good at. I always threw away the wrong bit of it. You know, you were sort of, you know, you were supposed to have your solution and at the end of it, and I always managed to throw away like the wrong half of it. So, I mean, I think that's when I first got the inklings that I'm not very good at following recipes either. That maybe that wasn't for me, but it was so interesting. And I was very good at university. Like I was really hardworking. I'm not sure I could be so disciplined now in a way, but I remember I used to get up sort of early in the mornings and sort of I had like a revision plan. I did it every day. I'd stop at lunchtime, watch a bit of Neighbours when that was on with my friends, have a bit of a break, go back and do it a bit more. So I was quite organised about doing it. But the exams themselves, I can't really remember. I mean, I remember going, you know, dressing up in all your finery to go in and do them, and I have nightmares about them still, actually. I mean, I did well, you know, I got a first. It was kind of, you know, which I wasn't expecting either, but my nightmares are that the exams are coming up and I haven't done any revision for them. I have a TV nightmare like that as well. It's like the sort of 6 o'clock news is coming up and it's 5 o'clock and I haven't started writing the script for the live script. You know, it's those kind of, they stay with you, I think. I loved it. It's a beautiful place. I love coming back. I met my husband there. So, so, you know, both of us are very nostalgic about it. I've got a 5-year-old now, so hopefully we're going to take her to have a little look around. So yeah, no, it was brilliant.
How do you find doing all this scientific journalism, traveling around, learning so much? How do you kind of find distilling that to an audience who doesn't have a science background or a mathematical background?
Well, I think a lot of the stories that I don't do very many chemistry stories. I mean, chemistry sort of runs through all of the stories, a bit like the Anthropocene and, you know, the testing in the lab, but there aren't very many sort of straight chemistry stories unless it's like a Nobel Prize winner. I suppose in some ways my starting point's the kind of same as lots of other people. I don't have sort of, you know, an in-depth knowledge of those areas, but I think it's part of it is having the confidence to ask the right questions, you know, and keep going with those questions until you fully understand it.
How do you think the field of journalism will change in the future, sort of science journalism?
Oh, it is changing massively, actually. I mean, I think sort of, you know, when I started out, it was you had your TV news bulletins, which everyone watched, you know, your radio, which people listened to, online was becoming a thing, you know, so you'd write for that. And now there's so much extra stuff you're having to do all the time. So, you know, we're doing a lot of streaming now, sort of streaming sort of straight to the website live pages, you know, with little bite-sized updates, all the social media stuff around there, you know, your TikTok videos now too. And I think the thing is, it's all quite fast moving. So just when you get the hang of one thing and we sort of work out how to do that, you know, everyone's moved on to the next thing. So, you know, we did something about the Titanic, not Titan, the submersible. This was about some sort of new scans of the Titanic where they'd done these amazing photogrammetry scans where it sort of looked as if you were looking at the wreck and all the water had gone away from it. You know, it's like the water had been removed, and the pictures were absolutely extraordinary. And, you know, like 6.5 million people looked at the online story. It ran everywhere on TV, radio. So even though people don't necessarily sort of tick science as their sort of subject of interest, they do kind of capture the imagination.
So I was also wondering, what kind of skills that you gained from doing your chemistry degree do you think are most applicable in your job now and that really help you with scientific journalism? Being
able to digest lots of information quickly is definitely a good thing. Knowing the process of science, how it works from the lab to writing papers to sort of how scientists work together, that's a really good thing too. I mean, journalism's a bit different because you're doing sort of the end step, you're translating it into something that people can understand, but more and more in science, that's sort of part of the job now as well, you know, sort of adding on a bit of science communication to the end of your lab work is really, really important. Not being afraid to like tackle hard things, because don't you think sometimes with chemistry, when you're first told something, you think, oh, I'm never going to understand this is really hard, and then you realize actually if you go at it enough, you kind of do. I think it teaches you not to be fazed by stuff that on the outset looks really, really tricky.
Are there any areas of science, whether they be emerging or they've been around for quite some time, that you enjoy particularly?
Oh, I love all of it, actually. I love the space stuff, is amazing. You know, being out to Kennedy, see rockets. I love the deep sea, the deep ocean, you know, sort of the unexplored kind of bits. I love I've done a dinosaur dig before in Wyoming. Love the natural world. I was almost killed at Mount Etna a few years ago, which was pretty traumatic, but kind of, you know, I love all of them, actually. When you do a story, you tend to just get really into it. And I think the nice thing about my job is I get to go to places and speak to people, and you meet the nicest scientists. You know, people are so sort of interesting and helpful, and you know, it's you kind of hear their stories, like both about the research and their personal stories, what got them into it. I mean, it's yeah, no, I really I like all areas of it, actually. I think the minute I sort of stop, it's probably time to move on from this job.